going through the airport with all these bags. But was this time much different showing up to the airport, but compared to how when you were RMSR showing up? Did you have like a sponsor meeting you
Oh
at the
yeah, this
airport?
was totally different, right? Because the guys from the shop are sitting there waiting for me with vans and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. It was totally different now, right?
Yeah.
So
I always think that's unique how it's different as we move throughout our careers, and that sponsorship piece matters so much for your wife to see like these guys are waiting to pick us up at the
yeah,
airport, and your kids to see like I don't know who these guys are, but they're daddy's friends. That's awesome.
yeah,
And we're gonna fall asleep on this car ride back to base and go to Navy
yeah.
Lodge and get checked in. And did you live on main base or were you over there in the Kego?
We lived on main base. Yeah,
That's a good deal. That's what year was that? When did you go to that EOD debt in Yokosuka?
we were there from 8 to 11.
Okay, so I was on board the George Washington from 10
Yeah,
to 13. So did you
yeah.
leave before the earthquake?
I was there. I left after. Yeah,
Oh,
I was there. I was actually when it happened. I had a guy there that he was trying to go EOD. I think he was trying to go EOD, and he had appointment with the DMO, so the dive medical officer for a physical, and
right.
he did not show. He did not do all these different things. So I had him there. I actually had him in a lean and rest. He was doing push ups. I had him in lean and rest, and I was talking to him about how we in the spec ops community, how we're responsible, right?
Right.
We notify people if we know we're not going to show up. We do this because that guy was doing him a huge favor, and the earth starts shaking, he starts to stand up. I was like, no one told you to recover, and then I told him to get back down, and then it happens again. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
well, get up, let's get
Yeah.
up, let's go, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
That was I was on board the ship when that earthquake happened, man. And my
yeah,
wife was in the building. We were in the Agisai Tower over there on main base. And, the evacuate twice out of the building. I mean, how was that weekend for you and your family after the earthquake?
oh, man,
I'm interested.
it was crazy. I
It was
think
scary.
the biggest thing for so I liked when they evacuated everybody, like when they got all the families out,
Yeah.
because it was just so much drama and stuff that followed afterwards, right? And then especially like so because everyone's the nuclear stuff, right? And as an EOD guy, like we understand all this kind of stuff, right? And it was just frustrating when you would have everybody going crazy on all of these kind of levels, right? With all the social media and all the rumors and everything. And it's like none of it even makes sense. Half of it's like, this guy who is he's a MS, so he's a cook. He's telling all these things, and I got my wife asking me all this stuff. I'm just like, oh man, calm down. Do you see me flipping out? Like I'm not
Yeah.
flipping out. So
I think that I remember first off, it was like 70 or something aftershocks that weekend that were
yes,
like
yeah,
legit earthquakes of their own, right?
yes,
I will tell you, my wife, you remember those alarms people had on their cell phones that would
yeah,
activate when an earthquake was coming?
yeah,
People had problems with those for a little while afterwards
yeah,
because I don't think a lot of people understand at first. And then I remember I was on the ship. I worked like 10 o'clock that night on the boat doing my PMS on the ship because I'm a grinder, right? I'm
yeah,
working. He said, she's okay. I'm good,
yeah.
right? And then I remember when I started seeing the devastation happen up north in
Oh,
Japan from the tsunami, right? And I was just thinking, like, that's freaking incredible, bro. Like, that was what I thought was the tragedy, right? And then
yes,
I had no thoughts about there ever being this plumage or this snowfall that's like this ash landing on us. And I think that we saw during that weekend, like social media for the first time in my life
yeah,
really become a problem, right?
yeah,
Because the spouses were on that social media and they were worried. And I think the other problem was, and we've seen this probably a few times in our career, because we think we could talk COVID in a little bit, but it's like when they change the goalpost, everybody's like, okay, I don't know what to believe now,
yeah,
right? Or they don't take your shoes off when you walk in your house. Like, what does that mean? Like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. And so I
yeah.
agree. I actually flew my wife and my son out before the evacuation even started because I was on the ship and they were like, how many days do you need to get the ship underway, the George Washington?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're broke down. We're like in the yards. And so we told them like a month, maybe 18 days to a month. And they were like, y'all get underway on Sunday. And I was just like, babe, pack your crap. You're out of here. Right. Like, because
Yeah.
I was not going to leave her freaking out in Yoko while I'm
Yeah.
gone, haze grain underway. Like, I can't control a lot, but I
Yeah.
can get you on a flight, right? And
Yeah.
I'll never forget me and Ty Giles. He was a brother of ours who was on the GW2. We drove our wives up to the airport, pushed our wives and our kids into the airport with the stroller, walked out the doors crying, bro. We were just like, bro, because we had no clue what was gonna happen
Yeah.
next, right? We were
Yeah.
like, we thought the George Washington, because it was a nuclear aircraft carrier, was never going to be allowed to come back to Guam or
Yeah.
to Japan because our
Japan. Yeah.
sensors were going off, right? We didn't know whose radiation was whose anymore,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so that's cool. That's interesting. You were there during that time. It was, and then that base became a ghost town real quick, right? Like it became.
Yes. Yeah. I would always laugh because I'd be at the taxi stand. Me and the guy would go out, get something to eat or whatever, come back and
Yeah,
you'd see someone with a little, they have a little Radiac, little monitor, and they would be testing things.